yeah. The corner singer on the mic, yeah. To the NewView, let's go. I might not be able to see you, but you can see me with your mind, baby. Even though you may have sight, you should know that I am blind, baby. So don't judge me, get to know me. Don't rush, just take it in slowly. I could do much more than you know. I can open your mind with my eyes closed. Eyes closed, mind open. Come into my world and let me change your view of me. Eyes closed, mind open. Come into my world and let me change your view of me.
Welcome back to Eyes Closed, Mind Open. I am still your host, Hannah Kinsey. They haven't fired me yet, folks. And today we are going to talk all about the sports balls. Now, I know next to nothing about the sports balls, but luckily the gentlemen in the room, they at least pretend to know something about it. And so first we have Mr. Joe Hamilton. He is a Paralympian. Don't let his head get a little too big, but in goalball. So we're excited to have him here with us. And then we have Mr. Mark Ivey again.
Hi,
I allowed
Hannah.
him back. Hi, Mark.
I am signing. You just got back from the Capitol, so you're familiar with this. I am getting signatures as we speak to cancel you as host. So
Thank
I'm
you.
about 50 away.
Well, isn't that nice? And then we have John Marcotte. Really, we pity invited him because without him, we wouldn't have Joe. So,
Hello, Hannah.
Hi, John.
Hello, Joseph.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Mark.
Johnny.
Good tidings, my friend.
Good tidings. So we're going to talk all about adaptive sports today. We do some of these at NewView, some of them not so much, but we are always ever expanding here at NewView. And I thought it'd be fun to just have a more laid back, more fun podcast today. So we're going to talk about these adaptive sports. I kind of want to start with Joe since he is the expert in the room, if you will.
Did you bring your medal, Joe?
It's in the bag. I didn't know it was a necessary part of this.
They
I
can't
apologize.
see it anyway. So
Well,
I could have shaken it for them, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It's
this is not a
jingle.
video. This is not a...
Mark he was afraid to shake it when I showed it to him. He did not want to shake it.
Well, the weight of it, I was like, holy cow. And then you were like, give it a little shake.
He's like, is that all right if I wear this? Then he picks it up and he's like, holy, that's heavy. I said, yeah, and that's why we keep it in the pocket of the bag.
Joe is in 2016 won a silver medal at the Paralympics for goalball.
Part of the silver medal team that went to Rio. It was awesome. We were ranked number 7 out of 10 going in. And in the semifinals, we played the homestanding Brazil, who were pretty much on a roll in goalball. They had finished as the 2012 silver medalist and the 2014 goalball world champion. And so we took them down. It was really awesome. There was about 10,000 people in the stands who did not know the rules. And so when they started calling penalties against Brazil, the folks were getting so pissed. And so me and my teammates were like, maybe we should hide in this net and that will hopefully, deflect any projectiles that come at us or whatever. But it was such a great experience for me. My mom got to come to Brazil and watch me compete. So
10,000 people?
10,000, man.
That's
so
amazing.
I was watching the Paralympics in, where was it? Just
Paris, yeah.
Yeah. And they kept telling the crowd at first, like it took them a couple minutes to know when to cheer and when not to, but the energy. So like in beat baseball, if we play under the lights at night, right? And you're blind, it's like, who cares if you're playing under the lights, but you can feel it, right? Yeah. What's it like playing in front of 10,000 people?
It's one of those things that that's the draw. I really believe like the pageantry of the Paralympics is, it's so fantastic. And then the sports hungry fans from these different nations where it's been hosted, I certainly hope that LA brings the fan energy the same way that some of these other countries that have been host to the Paralympics in this century have been. Australia was amazing. China was incredible. Rio was, we drew more fans to the Paralympics on one single day. There was over 110,000 fans that came to the Olympic Park. Now, obviously, the price of tickets is a little bit cheaper than the able-bodied Olympics or whatever, but they were just so crazy for the sports. And once fans discovered goalball, because obviously it's, I always joke around and say I'm trying to be the best at something no one's ever heard of. And once they discovered it, then they can't get enough. They come in, they bring their kids. It's such a cool atmosphere. And, like you're talking about, takes them a few sessions to get the rules down and understand that while play is happening, you're not supposed to, make noise. And then there's so much in the way of on court. You strike the ball defensively. It starts to get past you to go towards the goal line. All of a sudden, the rising crescendo of the crowd, and then you block it out of bounds or whatever. And then there has to be a stop for applause break. That energy has to be released. And so obviously in just a standard, goalball tournament, it's usually like my grandma and 3 of my friends that are watching.
Right. No one's ever.
It's, I've had crowds of almost 100 people at a national championship final that I competed in, but nothing like, the pageantry and the exhibit of the Paralympics.
Will you give a quick, just a 1-2 couple minute?
Excuse me, who is hosting here?
Well, I was going to say, what is goalball?
Exactly. Well,
My bad.
y'all have been talking so
Everyone,
much. I don't even get to ask questions.
My mic just got silenced.
It did.
Hannah,
Yeah, please hush. Let me speak.
Oh.
As you mentioned, you would rather be an expert in something that nobody's heard of. And, I don't even know about regular sports balls, much less the adaptive ones. The only thing that I knew growing up was you support the Oklahoma Sooners always and ever, or you get kicked out of the house. And other than that, I just don't care.
Other than that, go sports ball.
Yep, right, yeah. Woohoo. So yeah, talk about goalball. Talk about what it is. How'd you get started? Why'd you choose it, other than being an expert in something we don't know about?
So goalball is a sport that was specifically designed for blind and low vision soldiers post-World War II. Oh. Some rec therapists got together and decided that their clientele needed a competitive outlet that would emphasize orientation and mobility and spatial awareness. Now, I've been wrestling with this because, again, when you tell the average person that it's a sport for blind people, I think they immediately disconnect with it. Mm-hmm. But I've been working on classifying it as a sport you play blindfolded, and that, surprise, surprise, those people who are the best at it just happen to be blind. And I think it's a sales pitch that gets more people engaged because they're blown away by the fact that anyone sighted might actually consider putting on a blindfold and going and doing an activity that, closely resembles a sport. So,
Joe, how do other blind folk receive that new message of our sport?
Yeah, well, it's, I've tried it out on a couple of audiences and people really liked it. I mean, it always comes back around to, it was a sport that was specifically designed for blind people. It's unique because, like Mark mentioned, Beat Baseball. So Beat Baseball took the general principles of baseball and then adapted it so that blind and low vision people could participate in it. Whereas, goalball is not adapted from any existing sport. People ask me, what is goalball? I say, well, it's kind of like reverse dodgeball. You're trying to get in the way instead of out of the way. So just a quick layout really quickly. It's a volleyball court. At each end of the court is a hockey-style goal about 5 feet high and 30 feet wide, because the volleyball court's traditionally 30 feet wide by 60 feet long. They measure in meters because the game was invented in Europe, and so they're, whatever. But anyway, so we'll use feet here. And so each end of the court is tactile. They take string, they lay it down in a rectangle, they run tape over the top of it so you can feel it with your feet and your hands. There is a crossbar that goes across the back that you're also able to use for orientating yourself and make sure you're facing the right way. The ball has sound holes drilled into it, and it's got 2 or 3 bells inside. And so as the ball is bounced or rolled, it's volleyed back and forth between the two teams. There's a 10-second possession clock. So when Mark's team blocks the ball or knocks it out of bounds, once it's back in their control, they have 10 seconds to volley it by rolling or bouncing it at my team. And the goal is obviously to try to get it past the 3 players on the court into the net,
which
for
we
a
will
goal.
do tomorrow night.
That sounds like in
you and
Tulsa.
John.
Me, John, and maybe Kevin, right?
We'll block all the balls and we'll score all the goals.
Fair
Anyways,
enough.
Keep going. My bad.
It's there is a modicum of wishful thinking in that statement. For sure.
I was about to say you didn't take the bait, and then you.
Well, it's
then you got me.
So it's 2 12-minute halves. There's a 5-minute halftime where the teams will switch ends of the court. It is a 3-on-3 sport. You can have up to 6 players, so it's basically a full line change. The players line up in sort of a loose triangle formation with 2 players on the sidelines about 5 feet in front of the goal line, 1 player in the center about 10 feet in front of the goal line. And the reason why I chose it is because as growing up with 2 older brothers who were both pretty successful junior high and high school basketball players. Salute to Al Bundy. No, but then I wanted to be a team sport athlete, but detached my retina when I was in like 4th or 5th grade. And so all my basketball hopes and dreams kind of went down in flames. Discovered goalball at a sports education camp for kids between the ages of 10 and 17. Western Michigan University has a pretty famous O&M and rehab teaching master's program there, and Paul Ponchilla was a part of that blind rehab department. Excuse me. And he thought it was important to show parents and teachers. So in the state of Michigan, we do not have a centralized school for blind and low vision students. They're all mainstreamed in the general pop. and then they usually serve about 1 hour a day or a couple hours a week with an itinerant teacher or an O&M. So I was in a school district that, again, was general population, but there was 6 or 7 other students who were blind or low vision. I grew up about 150 miles from Kalamazoo, Michigan, Western Michigan University, go Broncos, proud Bronco grad. And so got lured to Western Michigan because of the campus, but also because of the, revolving around the sport of goalball.
Joe, real quick before I forget this thought. So you get a couple hours of O&M a week. What about in the classroom? Because I love the idea of everyone meshing together only if you're getting the assistance you need in the classroom.
Yeah. So like our situation was the program was housed. There were, I grew up about 15 miles west of Detroit, Michigan. And so the program was housed in the Livonia School District. And so I had a teacher that was in the school the whole day, and I would spend 1 hour with her going over assistive tech, daily living, Braille, and of course, a couple times a week, orientation and mobility. And then they would maintain the immense bookshelves that it takes for like a math or science text. If anyone who's out there maybe doesn't realize, Braille is it's a great communication medium, but it takes up a lot of space. It's like 3 pages of Braille for 1 page of print. So when you're looking at like a 500-page science textbook, that's like 20 or 30 volumes in Braille. So I would be in like the general ed classroom, and, once it started to get serious and boring, I'd tell the teacher, "Oh, you know what? I don't have the right volume for this this particular lesson you're going over. I got to run down to the VI room and get the next volume." And
or you go steal the volume, the last volume where all the answers are.
Yeah, you find it.
Look in the back of the book for the answers. The answers. That was my theme song in math.
But so it was mainstream. Went to a high school with about 2,000 other students. I was on the wrestling team and the track team while in high school. But the teachers in the school district would put on a once a week practice for a couple hours. And then I had my, in high school, I had my East Side boys. So again, goalball was played at Western Michigan University. So I was in Kalamazoo in the western part of the state. But we had 4 or 5 pretty good players on the East Side. So we made up a squad and would go over as 9th and 10th graders and play against the college guys and get our butts kicked. But that was the 90s. So when you got your butt kicked, it just made you want to play more and get better.
When did you know you were good?
1996, I was a senior in high school. We went to St. Augustine, Florida for the youth national championships. And I received a goalball All-American certificate as one of 6 players from the country who was like a rising star or whatever. It's like the LeBron James of goalball, if you will. That's what my teammate. Shout out to Victor Hakopian. He always says
that sounds crazy, but you are one of however many in the United States.
He's the most highly decorated goalball individual in the U.S.
So, like, as crazy as that sounds, there's really 6 of y'all.
Well, I'd say this: like the total population of goalball players that I know is about 240. But each cycle of a Paralympic or a world championship, there's only 6 that are chosen to travel to the particular event. So, I was aware of the Paralympics when they were hosted in Atlanta. That's the first time that it sort of hit my radar. And again, for me, to be honest with you guys, the Paralympics tends to be about who's the best at exercising, and that is definitely not me. I made 2 Paralympic Games because I just spent all my money and time and energy playing more goalball than anyone. And then trying to boost the sport around me, get people to think of it more as a professional and high stakes sport with statistics and with results and with competitive fire. You know what I mean? It's certainly it's whatever you make of it, because originally the founders, it was very vital to play in your peer group. Right. So, for me as a kid who was pretty tall, I went into 8th grade year at 5'6". And then by the time I started my freshman year in high school, a year later, I was 6'2.5" or 6'3". I grew 8.5 inches over the summer. It was insane.
Let's go back to Joe's older brothers so Joe's 6'4", 6'5". He's the shortest brother. The other ones are 6'6", 6'8". Yeah. It's crazy.
Got some big. My parents are both 6'2", so we had a big family. I used to joke around, so even the dog is 6 foot tall. But yeah, so we my brothers would play a little bit with our, we used to have a Thursday night program in Livonia. So I remember specifically one time we had this horrible windstorm, the power went out. And so then the whole family went to goalball practice just because there was power at the school in the next town over, And so my brothers played against me, and my dad was a big part of getting out there and putting more heat on the ball to sort of challenge my reaction time and stuff, And so again, I was getting battered around by the ball, from the age basically of 11, and then playing, as much as I possibly could. And then again, it's such a great, entity, right? It's not just the team sports, man. It's the socialization. Michigan's not the biggest state in the union, but it's pretty big. You can drive for 12 hours from north to south and still be in the same state. And so these teachers of the visually impaired from all these different programs across the state, Grand Rapids and Jackson, Michigan, and Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and Saginaw, Michigan, Livonia, Michigan, they would host, they would host an annual weekend tournament. And they'd break us down into groups, intermediate, beginner, advanced. And so all from the age of 11 until a senior in high school, we had the sports education camp, which was a whole week in May, where you get a chance to go and work on your skills. We've had 2 or 3 tournaments across the state where all
Are they still doing all this?
It isn't quite as big as it was when I was there. Yeah, it's what happened is that the teachers and the liability and all that. Remember, man, we're in the 90s. As long as your parents signed the permission slip, go on ahead. I remember being a junior in high school, and we went to a tournament at the Penn State Du Bois. My dad dropped off 2 of my high school buddies and myself at this hotel, and he was in town to give us a ride home. I didn't see him for 36 hours. We're just chilling in the hotel, having ice fights,
rules.
Chasing around people. They had this big auto parts convention, so they closed the pool, and we were so pissed that they closed the pool. So we all went and jumped in, and some guy comes running down, freaking out. It's going to chase all the blind kids away. Yeah. It was again, that level of independence, that level of confidence that team sports. So that's the thing. Again, I was addicted because of the connection, right? As a team sport athlete, I just happened to be playing a sport that you have to play blindfolded, but I was getting all of the same value of any Pop Warner football
100%.
Or Little League baseball, right? You're talking about problem solving, teamwork, communication, the confidence that comes, the socialization that comes, chasing the pretty girls around or getting beat up by some girl's boyfriend or whatever the case may be. It was all such a great experience. And then you add in the travel, we used to jump a van.
Yeah, baby.
6 or 7 of us jump a van from Detroit, Michigan. We drive to Columbia, South Carolina, 18 hours or, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 13 hours, Colorado Springs, a 20-hour road trip.
Couple breakdowns.
You don't have there's no other way to get a group of players to bond together than to stick them in a van for 14 hours, yelling at each other for eating each other's snacks. Right. And, I mean, just in the funny situations that would happen when you pull off the road to eat at an Arby's or something. And, it was just amazing.
Take 6 blind dudes into a gas station to go to the restroom. It's funny.
So McDonald's has their monopoly. So we have one guy who has enough eyesight to be able to see stuff, but he doesn't have enough eyesight to be able to see everything. So he wasn't in the restaurant. He was like in the van, like sorting his bag out or whatever. So he comes in the restaurant, and my brother who was driving us, he's 6 years older than me. He goes, "Hey, Johnny, I just won the Corvette." And this dude is like, "What?" He's like, "Seriously, I pulled the red sticker off and it matched the other 2 red stickers we have. We've won the Corvette. Will you take this up to the counter and show the people?" So like we walk into this McDonald's, there's the counter lady and there's a cook. That's it. There's these 2 employees. He walks up and he's like, "Hey, I got the red match and we just won the Corvette." There were like 33 different McDonald's employees. They were coming out of the ground. I don't even know where they came from. And they're all so excited. And the lady's like, "Oh my God, you want..." No, 2 of these are the same.
Oh man.
He said, you have 2 Indianas. My friend's like, "You guys are dicks."
Dude, my sighted buddies convinced me I had a hole-in-one once. And I get up to the hole and nothing's in there. Hey, what's the path to the Olympics?
Paralympics.
Yeah. Well, so again, like there's tons of sacrifice. I mean, for Rio, right? I live in Sacramento, California. I've made my home there since 2007. And in September of 2015, packed up the truck and moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, because an organization there called Turnstone was willing to put aside their old gym and let us lay down the Terraflex goalball court. So, from September of 2015 all the way through the Paralympics, which happened in September of 2016, we were in Fort Wayne. And so you sacrifice family time and you sacrifice friend time.
But are you qualifying to even get there? Like, how does the team in the United States come together and qualify to be like, these are the guys? Right. Are you qualifying to get to that point? Are you going through scouting camps?
Certainly they do, right? So again,
combines.
I was sort of relieved of duties, if you will, in 2020. So obviously the process, maybe not as familiar with it as I was, but during the 10-year time from 2009 until 2019 that I was a part of the USA process, we'd have 3 or 4 skills camps each year where you'd go in on a Thursday and you'd play goalball for 3 days. They'd have us do like a mile run as a fitness measure. They also would design some sort of goalball specific fitness measures that they would, try to build some metrics to have a more subjective process instead of just like, "Oh, I'm going to take this guy because I, taught him in school, or, I know his family or whatever, because there is a lot of objectivity in it because the community is so small. But the, United States Association for Blind Athletes, USABA, they're the national governing body. So the Paralympic partner for goalball is USABA. And so for the time that I was involved, prior to when the world changed in 2020, you had 4 or 5 regional tournaments. It was like Atlanta, Philly, Portland, Oregon, which is Vancouver, Washington, Phoenix, Arizona. And so, I traveled to all those places. There was one in Michigan as well.
New Jersey.
That was the Philly tournament and on the New Jersey side, but we traveled in Philly.
Did you have any Paralympians as a teammate that you ended up going to Brazil with?
So my club team in California that I played with from 2009 until 2018 were guys who were about 10 years older than me. And they were all qualified to go to camps and compete at that level. I have no doubt that they could have made an impact, but they were family oriented and they were career oriented people who didn't have the ability to make the sacrifice. Because again, just on the minimum, if you're going to make a serious run at trying to be a part of the USA team, you need to be taking like 40 days a year off from work. And one of the reasons I was in, NewView, Oklahoma is as an affiliated agency with National Industries for the Blind. And I was a business fellow with NIB in 2012 and 13. And, it's like thinking about taking off like 40 days from the fellowship just to be able to go to tournaments. And like when I worked for a nonprofit in Sacramento, what took me out to California was Society for the Blinds, where I met John in 2009.
I'm sorry.
And the board of directors were so supportive of my pursuit in goalball when I first got out there. But then 2 years later in 2011, like they're basically trying to fire me while I'm in Turkey competing to try to qualify for the London Paralympics in 2012. Like the structure and the support just changed in the blink of an eye. It was like one day they were cool with it and the next day they weren't, right? And so, there's a true balancing act. And so when we didn't meet the qualifying standard for London in 2012, which I was a backup on that squad, so I'm putting that on somebody else. That's the beauty of team sports, right? It's never your fault. But then in 2012, when I finally made the starting three with two other guys who both came through the Michigan sports camp, who are both graduates of Western Michigan University well. Like, again, we really learned.
Who's that? Who
from
are those two?
Goalball Yoda? John Kusku and Tyler Marin.
Okay.
And Tyler just retired. He's like the longest standing. I think he went to like 5 or 6 Paralympics or whatever. And then Kusku and I played in Rio, and that was his first, my second, because I went to Sydney in 2000 when those guys were 14 years old. And then John Alton, he went to Tokyo as well in 2021. So he's been to a couple Paralympics as well. But yeah, so we all took different paths because both of those guys, well, Tyler lived in Florida for a while. John has been in Michigan and is like now the driving force and the stabilizing force for goalball in that state as it, revives itself after a, 10 or 20 year sort of slowdown. They've started to, have teams popping up in different.
Dude, there's always like new. When we were the League for the Blind, we changed our name 15 years ago, Hannah? I don't know. But I didn't even know we played beat ball. There was a beat ball team in Oklahoma that was played right here. Mm-hmm. And then there's a 20-year gap. Yeah. And it's like people get older, but if there's no one, I've noticed in all adaptive sports, if there's no one putting in the effort and it is a lot of effort, that stuff goes away. If a key person moves, it could go away. Yeah. That's the one thing. We could spend a whole nother podcast on keeping the ball rolling. No pun intended. But Hannah, you are this close from getting the smackdown.
That's not.
We
don't need to do
He's
that.
telling a fib.
Come to goalball practice. We'll throw the ball at you, but we're not. No physical harm. No physical harm was caused during the making.
Even though
of this
she was
podcast.
Threatening us before the podcast.
No, but it's like this, where I think team sports plays such an important role for blind and low vision people is, so there's the process of coping. And I mean, I had functional vision when I was a kid. I could ride a bike. I could see movies and, watch NFL games from a foot and a half or so away from the TV. My brothers hated my big head in the way all the time, on the left side of the screen or whatever. And then my retina detached and all that functional vision went away. I was killing it on Mike Tyson's Punch Out and Super Tecmo Bowl. And next thing I know, I couldn't play those games anymore. That might have been God doing me a favor, honestly, because I could have been like 478 pounds just sitting on the couch drinking Dr. Pepper.
You're halfway there.
Playing first-person shooters or whatever. But yeah, so you go through the process of coping, right? And everybody does that. No matter what, you're 4, 14, 64. When you start to experience vision loss, you go through the stages and you cope. But then there's the adjustment, right? Not only am I someone who's confident and comfortable being a person who's blind, but I've also adjusted to it. So people go, oh man, they got this Neuralink. Are you going to be the guy who's standing in line to get your eyesight back? I'm like, I am going to be the only blind person on planet Earth. I just don't, the meta glasses are so great because I can help you see. It's like, I don't need it. It's like, I learned how to live without it. So it's great that it's there for those people who really vibe with it. But overall, if it helps me stock a vending machine for a buddy of mine or whatever and make sure the chips aren't upside down or something, then fine, it's a practical use or whatever. But, people are like, should I use it to cross the street? I'm like, hell no, you should not do that. That is not what you should do.
100%
You read the traffic, period. I know there's accessible crossings, but even those, I went to City College. That's where I would train when I was in Sacramento. We'd use the gym at the community college there. And they had an accessible crossing. So the bus going one way on one side and then, going back home on the other side. I remember standing out there one time. I hit the button and the chirper starts, bloop, bloop. And then somebody goes flying through. And I was like, see, this is why we don't just rely on the sound. You have to read the cars. And so again,
that's an interesting, Hannah, and John, and I'll throw myself in there. So are you saying, I get the Neuralink, like, let's hang back, don't be a hero, let's let them figure it out. But if there's if they could just say, Joe, there's a cure, there's a surgery you could see a week from now.
Optic nerve transplant.
Are you saying that you would still want to just, because I do understand the identity of it, because like, since I've accepted and surrendered, and now it's like, it is my kind of identity. And I tell people this and I can't really explain it, but sometimes it scares me to see again. And it feels weird even saying it.
Yeah.
But
Well, here's the thing. What do you probably have had this happen before? You're like at a restaurant or you're out at the mall or something, and somebody comes up to you and like, you're such a brave soul. If I went blind tomorrow, I don't know what I would do. And it's like, yeah, guess what? If I went sighted tomorrow, I wouldn't know what I would do. I mean, seriously, everything that I feel like eyesight would have helped me with has passed me by in my life. I'm mid-40s now, so there's no more NFL. You know what I mean? There's no more scouting out the most, hottest college women or whatever. Like all that stuff has sort of passed me by. So for me, I'm so comfortable in my life. I'm sarcastic and cynical and all these things. With my total personality would change, I think, if I all of a sudden had eyesight and falling into the trap of, some of the jerky things that sighted people do. And I just, I don't want that for myself.
I mean, I feel like we agree, but I feel like we take different routes to get there. I've been blind since birth. And so I would have to learn. I mean, we always talk about learning how to be a blind person. Mark likes to say that. I would have to learn how to be a sighted person. And that seems like way too much work. Like I've already learned how to do everything I need to do as a blind person, and I'm cool with that. I also, like on a deeper level, I believe that God makes no mistakes, and I believe that I was created the way that I am for a reason and a purpose.
And they say, give his toughest task to his strongest soldiers, right? Like that's a true identification of. So it's so insane because again, we're in this mindset where blindness happens to just be a characteristic of us, right?
Exactly.
It's not this debilitating, defeating, and you said it, we came to that adjustment through whatever means. Like I was a bitter kid. I have no friends from junior high and high school because I spent 5 years coping with my blindness and just bullied them all and they hated my guts, right?
For sure.
And when did I have my moment of zen, if you will? It was like, guess what? This isn't about me. It's about everyone else's perception of me. And it's clearly the line in the sand. It's the summer of 1994. It's Shawshank Redemption. It's Tim Robbins saying, you have a choice in life. Get busy living or get busy dying. And that resonated hard with me, man. I went to school in the fall of that year, just so much more comfortable and so much more ready to do that, to get busy living.
I, on the other hand, would be third in line.
I knew he was going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Let the two figure it out. And then
Yeah, because third time's a charm.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, and that's not to say that we don't have days where we're like, man, this kind of sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for
every
instance, I would not say every day.
Well, not every day.
But a few months ago, I ordered food and I meant to tell them to hand it to me and not leave it on my porch. But I forgot because it was so windy outside. And I was like, oh, crap. Well, I'll just have to get it right once it goes out. Well, the second I walk out, my food goes flying. And it's all over my street. And I'm just like, well I guess again. I don't get to eat. And that day I was just like, I hate being blind. I was so mad. But overall, though, I love my life. And I love living it.
I love my life, blind or not. But I've been sighted and I've been blind. I prefer sighted, even though it'll probably never happen. But because there ain't nothing like getting up, grabbing the keys, going out to the car, driving to the store. I miss that.
I mean, yeah. No, and I get that. And I'm not saying that I don't have times where I wish that weren't the case. But anyway, though.
Anyway, adaptive sports.
Right. So, but what I love, though, going back to adaptive sports is exactly what I feel like it all falls in line is there's so much stigma, I feel like, around adaptive sport. And I feel like Mark had a moment where this was the case for him where, you think about beep baseball or something like that, and you're like, great, it's like baseball, which is cool, but it's made stupid for blind people or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a harsh way to put it, but I always saw, as a kid, I saw adaptive sport like that because my sister was playing softball, and golly, I was going to go out there and play right along with her. So she would put me in her catcher gear and pitch to me. I mean, we didn't care. We did stupid things like that.
Sure.
And in fact, she didn't always put me in her catcher's gear.
But still threw the ball at you.
Yeah, that was a little scary. But, you know, we always had fun, just like me doing what everybody else did, especially as a kid. But you couldn't do that for sports. And I knew about beep ball and different things like this. But I was like, I am not going to do that because it is just
that
lame.
dumb blind sport.
Right.
Well, it goes back to Joe's comment about
It's not a blind sport.
and the coping.
But that's what I mean.
It caught me. Some people just, you know, pull their bootstraps up and go take advantage of stuff. And those people, like, God bless them. I just didn't. It took me 10 years.
Right. But that's what I mean is I love how he said that you get the same thing as sighted people get out of it. You get the socialization, you get the connection, you get being part of a team, you get the physical activity and the fun.
The adrenaline even more
Yes.
so.
And
Yeah.
orientation and mobility and spatial awareness, I mean, they're truly pillars. Like, you know, John talks about he misses a day of being able to go out and grab his keys or whatever, and that's fine. Like, I get it. Sure, that sounds so convenient, you know, but to be able to walk to the store, which, you know, is a capability that everyone has, they just have to apply the skills in order to do it, right? And so to me, that's where it's been so great. Like, I got to do some different experiments. I mean, I went kind of deep into down the rabbit hole where I would wear like a gyroscope and turn to try to teach myself like what a 90-degree turn was. And, you know, and walk from one end of a gym to the other end to like measure, like how much do I veer, right? So that way I could know, because, you know, an intersection is traditionally about 40 feet from one side to the other. And, you know, if you have like a 40-degree veer field, when you're walking that kind of distance, you know, you don't know that. So you're just completely into the other traffic lane or something. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of that. Goalball was great for that because when they put those lines down on the floor, you know, it's they're you know, you line up with your back on the goal line, you're facing the right way. You put your fingers down and you line up behind the wing line, and you know you're facing the right way. And it's such a empowering thing for me.
Yeah. I forgot to say at the intro, I met Joe. So I'll make this pretty quick. My little brother told me about goalball. He knew about this at the Colorado Springs Olympic Training Center that the Team USA was doing this goalball clinics and tournament. And I don't know if we just signed up. I don't even know how we got there, but we always talked about Team USA. We're like, yeah, that guy from Michigan and that. And then fast forward, John, I'm at his apartment. He's talking to this guy, Joe, about goalball. And I was like, and John's like, yeah, he was a Paralympian. I go, was he? And then connected the dots. I was like, oh, I know that guy. But back to what you're saying about the mobility and awareness, you didn't let us touch a ball for like a while. We were just getting familiar with that court. And yeah, like the skills you gain from
You got to know your boundaries before you can.
I just remember showing up being like, oh my, we can't even, you know, because I had never even touched a goal ball.
That's my advice. Because listen, everyone is afflicted by the opinion of someone else. So if you talk to somebody that had a bad experience at beep baseball, thought they were going to be awesome at it, and then they sucked or whatever, then they're going to come at it with such a negative flair, right? Oh, goalball ain't nothing but a bunch of blind people crawling around on the floor. Well, guess what? If that's the experience you want out of it, that's what you're getting out of it. No question. Sure. No question about it. But it's adapted sport. So you play low to the ground because we're blind and we can't just be flinging the ball through the air and blowing each other's heads off with it. You know what I mean? There has to be some constraints to it. But I'm down in a catcher's crouch, or I'm one knee down, 1 foot up, and I'm trying to make an explosive lateral move to cover a 3-meter section of court that's my responsibility. And I'm trying to stop a ball that's coming 40 miles an hour at me. I got maybe a second to react once the guy down the court throws it at me. You know, I'm using my body to try to block it. So I'm trying to keep my forearm up to protect my grill, you know, so I don't get blasted in the mouth by the ball.
Just the worst.
It's a contact sport. I don't care what anybody says. You don't run into anybody unless you trip over your teammate. But, you know, I step back to the goal and, you know, probably in my washed up life now, I can probably make 30 miles an hour, but I'm still chucking the ball, and you're sacrificing your body. You're hitting the wood floor 100 times a game. That's 2 12-minute halves. So there's 100 offensive and 100 defensive possessions, just, as like a median. Sometimes there's less, sometimes there's more, but it's still repetition and focus and, mental aptitude and physical exertion. I mean, there's all those things that are involved in it. And if you, play with a bunch of dudes that crawl around on the floor and don't take it seriously, then you're going to come away going, man, this is lame. But if you get out there with like me and you see some of the sports ties, I mean, basketball players, when they're 5-on-5, when they're playing defense, they're rotating around the key. They're constantly in motion. And so we brought that to the goalball court in 2012. And we started playing a brand of goalball that took the world by storm because we were not set in a left wing, right wing, center position. We were there on the court. We'd block the ball in one place and it was incumbent to throw it from another place.
Are other countries doing it now?
A lot of teams have started moving around, but they were not able to do it like we could do it. Because we could all play all 3 positions. We would all play for 2 or 3, 4 snaps in one spot and then roll somebody off the X and throw the ball from somewhere else. I mean, it was a fluid, beautiful goal ball in motion. And I was always pushing to make sure that whatever we did offensively didn't put our defense at a disadvantage. And so that was why we started like backfilling the empty space with another body, right? Send a guy from right to left, 2 guys meet at the ball and trick the other team. I mean, this is a sport that's played blindfolded. So one of the goals is to try to trick the other team, make sure they don't know what you're doing. I mean, that's, it's sort of part of it.
You guys emphasized, we just didn't have enough time for the backfill. I mean, that's just reps and reps and reps, I'm sure. But the angles, like you all taught
all about angles.
You all taught us to form a defense that it was literally like, whoever's throwing this, the pre-shot communication, you're making it to where this guy, wherever he is, has to make the perfect shot to not get a body on it.
And again, it's just creating double teams on the ball, just like you would in any sport, like trying to block a defensive end coming at your quarterback.
Oh, I love this.
Right?
Yes.
Trying to keep a guard trapped in the corner, to force a turnover or whatever. Yeah. So that's all. I mean, that's all we're doing is just creating. And that's where I am with goalball. I want people. Of course, I wanted to try to leave the game better than I found it, which I think I did in 2018 at the USABA National Championships. We had 20 men's teams there, 20.
Wow.
Then the pandemic happened. Then they kicked me out of goalball. And then past summer, they had a tournament with 6 teams. Wow. 6 teams. So, where's the leadership? That's I always sort of challenge it. And I keep my mouth shut because they say if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything. And so I've just been quiet. But I've been watching them brick by brick tear down a sport I spent 30 years trying to build.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of guys, and then you confirmed a few that are no longer involved. So, that's unfortunate sometimes, but hopefully.
I will say, though, I mean, it's so cool, and we talk about, like, making most of the hand you're dealt. Or, if you could, would you go back and change it? Or if you could change it in the future, would you? But, like, man, if you hadn't gone blind when you did, if you hadn't done all the things that you've done, like you have been so innovative. You've done so many things that maybe where you sighted, you wouldn't never have done, had the chance to do.
You have an Olympic medal.
Exactly.
Paralympic medal. So you know what I mean.
I know, but the thing is like, it's my brand. So I have to stand up for my brand.
Yes, you do. And you should.
And here's the thing, just to make sure that the world who's listening to the eyes shut, mind open, right?
Eyes closed.
Eyes closed, mind open. Listen, Paralympic, it's parallel. That's what the para stands for. It's the Parallel Olympics. I was a summer Olympic athlete who just happened to have a physical disability. I think probably the thing that is hardest about being a person who's blind is making the connection with the majority of the world that my eyes don't work. Yep. Other than that, I'll talk shit. You know what I mean? I'll make jokes. I'll do karaoke. My life is a human's life. I just don't have eyesight. Yep. And so trying to get it past the fact that I was not a Special Olympian, I was a Paralympian. Yes. And Josh Blue, he's a very famous stand-up comedian, cerebral palsy, right? Yep. And he made a joke and it stuck with me forever. He said, Paralympics, we compete for medals, and Special Olympics, they compete for hugs. And you know what? Like, I know that's shitty, but guess what? We have to try to do something to catch the attention of the general public to make sure they understand that we are the best at what we do. We just happen to have a physical disability. And it affects our eyes. I'm not saying there's not multiple disabilities out there for people who are experiencing blindness and other things, but for the most part, the people that I've interacted with and competed with have all been top shelf physical prepared athletes who just happen to have their eyes not work.
Joe knows her better than I do, but they're a 2-time bronze Paralympic medalist for judo. Totally blind. Well, she could see light, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
And giving up 60, 70, 80 pounds to her opponents because the women's heavyweight division was basically anybody who weighed over 155 pounds. So, I mean,
that's like the old school UFC stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, and you know, I'll just tell one more story because I think he yelled at us about time, but I was out having, John, I think was with me. We were at this, it was like a 3-level bar restaurant in Old Sacramento downtown.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like walking up the stairs to go to use the restroom. And this woman on the stairs stops me and she's like, "You're so inspiring. It's so amazing. You're out here with your friends, just having a great time. I just got diagnosed with macular degeneration. And it makes me so sad when I think about my grandkids. I just want to die." And I thought, well, and I stopped on the stairs and I took a second and I looked directly at her and I said, "Well, do you think that your grandkids would rather have a blind grandma or a dead grandma?" And then I just walked up to the bathroom and went on my way. It's like, yeah, I get it. There is definitely that part of adjustment and we all have to do it. But you got to get busy living.
I'm going to tell my daughter that next time she complains about me not being able to take her places like the other days. Do you want me to be dead?
Mine. And on that note, I don't know about y'all, but I've learned things today. We've had a little bit of fun. We've had a little bit of annoyance, mostly Mark. And
I look forward to being out there in Tulsa tomorrow. I came to help these players get better at goalball because the only way you truly reach the pinnacle of success in a team sport is by taking those other players around you and elevating their games. I have to keep getting better because I'm ensuring that you are continuing to get better. And I don't think that's necessarily happening in the sport. We got a lot of guys out there who are happy to wear the USA on their chest and get, subscribe to all the Paralympic benefits and everything. But when it comes down to it, they're lifting weights and they're out there playing a team sport as an individual.
We're going to fly in. We got a grant for some Tulsa funding for youth sports camps, and goalball is obviously going to be huge in it. We're flying. You got to come.
So real quick, actually, before we go, Mark, tell everybody what Adaptive Sports NewView is doing and how people can be involved, either volunteering or getting involved and actually doing the thing.
Yeah, so you can go to our website, newviewoklahoma.org. And I'll just, what do we have, an audience of 4 maybe?
Probably.
918-408-7023. Parents, kids, anyone who wants to play goalball, beatball, volunteer, get involved, whatever it is, holler at us and we'll plug you in.
The opportunity and the connection is what's most important.
Yep.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you for spending some time with us, hopefully laughing, hopefully learning something. And we'll catch y'all next time.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me.
And let me change your view of me.